show me yours. Where failure speaks volumes. Jason and Rick getting real, drop brutal business truths. No sugar coated, only raw lessons shared. Tuning out on your mistakes, show me yours.
Welcome to Show Me Yours. We are here with a wonderful, exciting new guest to us. But before we get started, I am Rihanna Werner. I am your co-host, and I've got Jason here.
Hey, everyone.
And we have a wonderful, enchanting surprise for you today. We are here with Mike Girard of 300 Days of Shine. So I can't call Mike a personal friend just yet, but he will be, I promise. And he should be. I have actually been a patron of your establishment many times, dating back to when you first opened. I don't even know when that is because, quite frankly, I've consumed too much of your product.
2014. Yeah.
14?
Yeah.
Has it really been that long?
Yeah.
Wow. One of my favorite things was to take my car to the shop, JJ Tracks back then, drop my car off, and then I go and sip a little tasty beverage at your fine establishment, and then I go pick up my car and eat some Tic Tacs and drive home.
We get a lot of those.
I'm sure you do. You should actually keep Tic Tacs there, just ready to hand out. Or just take a shot of the cinnamon.
Or pickle rind or whatever the new age thing is. Yeah.
Does pickle rind really work? Like, is that really?
Some people come in and they swear by it.
Do they really?
Yeah, I don't know.
If it works once, it's a superstition after that, right?
Right.
So,
I do the gum thing. So, or just keep it very limited on my sampling during the day and taste testing.
Well, there's that too. Okay, you guys, I have to read something to you. So I was out there, doing this, the techie super stalker stuff, and I came across, which was not hard to find at all, your website and your story, and this is just. I was going to try and summarize, but I'm like, no, this is just too badass. I have to read this verbatim to our audience here. So listen to this. Mike distilled his first batch of moonshine while serving on deployment in Afghanistan. The first and original still was a 3-gallon pressure cooker IED. You freaking made your first batch in a bomb.
Yeah.
That's awesome. He and his EOD unit were responsible for disarming. With the explosives removed, the vessel was converted into a still using a hot plate and copper tubing. So not only are you a badass, you're a MacGyver badass.
I guess, sort of.
As for the mash, A&W root beer and distiller's yeast. Okay, what did that taste like?
It didn't taste good. I don't know if I can use the word that I normally use on my tours, but it wasn't that pressure cooker that we took out of the ground actually had a homemade explosive in it, which was ammonium nitrate and aluminum powder.
Okay.
Now the military, the Army has an acronym for everything.
I'm
So
sure.
Ammonium nitrate, AN, aluminum powder, AL, is anal. That's what we refer to it. That's pretty much what it tasted like.
It tastes like ass.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was an experiment to see if it would work. So at the time, I was a little bit higher in rank in my career field, and I was the first sergeant. So I was in charge. I was the head NCO, the senior NCO in the company on that deployment. And soldiers for years deploying, once they instilled General Order 1, which says you can't drink alcohol, they would bring beer kits and things like that so that they could try and make beer, make wine while they're deployed. Or they have a bootlegged in Listerine bottles from family members, sending care packages and things like that. And being an EOD guy, our units are small, and we do what's called fobbing our guys out. So when we go into an area of operation, your headquarters is in one area, and then you have 7, 8 teams that are fobbed out to different areas of that area of operation.
Okay.
Most of those are a helicopter ride away. They're not close. So you expect your guys to do the right thing, abide by the rules, and if you do break the rules, don't get caught. So I knew my guys were going to do stuff like that. It was just, you have to keep an eye on them. And I overheard someone talking about making moonshine. And this was the process they were talking about doing, making a still, using Coker Sprite that has high sugar content to ferment, then distill it into an alcohol. I thought they were full of crap. Never distilled anything other than in a chemistry lab. So I kind of took what they were talking about to see if it was feasible and something they could actually do. And it actually worked. And then it was just one of those things like, okay, now I know this works. There's one more thing I got to keep an eye on my guys, make sure they don't get in trouble with anything stupid.
Really?
So that's basically how it started. But it also led me down this rabbit hole of just researching history and the love of the process and the craft of. When I got home from that deployment, I built a new still and started doing this in my garage like people make beer and wine. It became another hobby. My wife was ecstatic about the odd smells of fermenting grains and sugars in the basement that were permeating up to the main floor.
Oh, that couldn't smell good.
Yeah. Started adding flavors to it, and that's when it got pretty popular with some folks, and I was getting ready to retire, and that's when I sent it to a buddy of mine who worked at the RNDC. And his boss loved it. They took it to a tailgate party at a Bronco game, and it ended up in the hands of my future investors.
Really?
They invested in the whole thing as I retired from the Army, and 300 Days of Shine was born.
Wow, go Broncos.
Yeah.
Heck
She was a
yeah.
Bronco fan, so it kind of worked out.
So before we get,
Yeah,
I'm so curious,
please
like
do.
that journey of like from obviously transitioning out of Army and right into like beginning to sell a product and having a business. What was that like?
It was open mouth, turn on fire hose. You know, I grew up in northeast Montana, a small farm town, never ran a business like this. My old man was a mechanic, he owned his own shop, so we were small business owners when I was a kid, but I didn't do anything with that other than learn how to rebuild small engines and things like that. So, you know, after 23 years in the Army, being told what to do every time you do something, now opening a business was something completely new. They got courses in the military for transitioning out where you can do small business course classes prior to transitioning. I went to that, learned a little bit, but nothing to what I was getting myself into.
Really?
Luckily, my investors were small business owners up in Denver. They knew a lot about business. They had liquor lawyers to do all the process of getting the licensing and everything like that. But then the day-to-day operations, you know, when we first started out, it was just me and my wife working there. I did all the distilling, production, bottling, and then we had a tasting room that I would run at night. We were open 5 days a week, and then we were self-distributing as well. So everything that we were distributing into liquor stores was me going out and getting that into stores, getting our product on the shelves. A lot of hours, a lot of grind, but it was fun. It was small, and just working with my wife was great because I spent 20 plus years in the military away from my family, and I was working with them. So it was a great transition on that side.
That's beautiful. Okay, so, you know, like bourbon's all the rage, and then you've got the vodka drinkers and the gin drinkers. You don't hear much about moonshine. What was it like? What was that adventure, or, you know, maybe it's the savviness of introducing a beverage, a liquor beverage that probably is not so predominantly thought of, and when it is thought of, it has probably kind of an association to, you know, backwoods, backyard booze that might be a little bit dangerous.
Right.
How was that?
So yeah, I mean, just the mason jar itself has a negative connotation, and trying to, you know, work around that. At the time, there was a couple nationwide brands that were out on the shelves. So I did market research by just buying a lot of that stuff, see what it tastes like compared to mine. Especially the different flavors, because that's what's most popular. It's not the straight out distill 105 proof or 120 proof. It's what flavors can you make from it and make it drinkable, you know, increase its drinkability.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of research with that. A lot of the flavors that I was making were just basically family recipes that I remember growing up. Our apple pie was, my grandma was famous for her pies during Thanksgiving. And when I was in Scouts, we would make peach cobbler in a Dutch oven on the coals when we were camping. So that's where our peach cobbler came from. You know, things like that. They pretty much all of our flavors almost have a story behind them. But that was, you know, the most popular spirit in Colorado is whiskey.
Yeah.
Second to tequila. So moonshine not being as popular, my goal was to try and make it as popular as possible by using Colorado's history and their stories. Not making it military themed like a lot of vets do that get out and they go all military.
They
all in
do.
on the GI marketing. Mine was, I loved Colorado. My dad's whole side of the family is from Denver. My brother was born here. When my folks divorced, we moved up to Montana, where my mom's side of the family is from. So I have a lot of history with Colorado in my family. My grandma was, she owned S&R Printing in Denver. She had a print shop for years, printed a lot of Denver Bronco stuff. I was a huge Bronco fan. So Bronco was in my blood, you know, and that being said, when we moved here, I quickly found how much people loved this state. And the Colorado C on the flag was, at the time, the second or third most recognized state flag, next to Texas and the California Bear.
Get out, really?
No.
I had no clue our own state
Yeah,
held
and when you
that
go into stores
recognition.
and things like that, people really pride themselves on Colorado Proud. Colorado made products, things like that. So what I wanted to do was focus on Colorado tradition. When I started researching the history of Prohibition in Colorado, it was fascinating how much I read and found out about that nobody knew. Even Colorado natives, I talked to my family about, did you know who the Carlino brothers were? Oh, I knew the Smaldones and some of those organized crime families were, but they didn't know about the Carlinos. They didn't know about Chet Porter, who was the largest moonshiner out of Monument, west of the Mississippi.
Really?
I found out all these fascinating things about Colorado and what was going on during Prohibition. The fact that Colorado actually went dry in 1916, 4 years prior to Prohibition. They instituted statewide prohibition. So they had a 4-year head start before the 18th Amendment went into effect.
Get out.
So, and then the type of moonshine they were making, was from beet sugar, not corn, because Colorado's cash crop at the time was sugar beets. So Western Sugar was a co-op that included multiple states and provided almost the entire western United States as granulated sugar. Most of your sugar came from cane, or not from cane, but from sugar beets.
Sugar beets?
So I found that fascinating. I started using beet sugar to make my shine to see what it would taste like, if it was any different, everything like that, and found that we could make a really good, clean spirit based on the information that I was able to research that was relatively close to what I think moonshiners were doing here 100 years ago.
Really?
So that's really what I wanted to focus on.
Wow. Fascinating, you know, pride myself on being a Colorado native. Jason moved here when you were 6?
I was 6. So I
You
can't
were
quite
6?
claim native, but I've been here a long time.
So, you know, us being long timers, I've never heard that story. Have you?
No, not to ask you. I knew Colorado Springs had, like, there was a lot of prohibition early on. Like General Palmer, who founded the city, wanted it to, he was a teetotaler. He wanted the city to be focused on like health and wellness and the whole sunshine thing with tuberculosis, and that was a big factor. But Penrose was a drinker, and so there were like these stories of them going back and forth. And the city's always kind of had an interesting edge between prohibition or not drinking and people that wanted to have it. So
Yeah, I mean, Colorado Springs was dry early on, and then they pushed that into Old Colorado City. And Old Colorado City used to be nothing but bars all the way up to Main Street. And when they banned alcohol, basically all the bars and saloons owners picked up all their stuff, and they were moving that product basically a half a mile down the street where that city line ended and opened up right there.
I heard that there were tunnels underneath Colorado Boulevard connecting bars and brothels along the way so people wouldn't see them conversing back and forth. Yeah. Interesting fact. So I was the first HR manager ever in its history at the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center. And one day when I was working there, one of the curators, she was like, "You want to come with me to the Broadmoor and check out something pretty cool?" And I'm like, duh, yeah. So we go, and she takes me down into a hallway. We go down some stairs, and we walk through this hallway, and we go into this room, and it was a really dark room, no windows, no nothing. And she looks at me, she's like, "You know where we are?" No, she says, "We're in the Prohibition room underneath the Broadmoor Lake." And what she had taken, apparently, she'd taken me underneath there, and they had a whole bunch of old Prohibition artifacts that she was picking up for the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center. And I had no clue that there was a Prohibition room underneath that lake, but there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, you strike gold in the sense that every small business owner wants everything you have. A good story, just the compelling nature of really loving something, and then beginning to build a business around that and turn it into something. So I love that, because so often so many people try to figure that thing out, and it was just very natural for you to step into that. How do you feel like that really supported you in the overall growth of the company and where you see things at today?
It was instrumental, big time. Just having the history and knowing that, especially when we tell those stories to people, and when people take tours, and I make sure all my staff knows who the players were, and we've got all this memorabilia and history on our walls, so that when people ask, they can tell the stories as well. Originally, when I first opened this business, I never mentioned that I was a veteran. I didn't put it on the bottles. I didn't have it on anything marketing wise. I wanted people to love the product for its taste and the history of what we were trying to do. And I had a buddy of mine who was a vet as well. He's like, you need to tell people you're a vet. And I was like, well, people find out. And he's like, no, you need to tell them that you're a vet, and he really pushed me to be more open about my veteran status, and which I think actually did help to the point of a marketing standpoint, because we have such a large number of retirees and we have a massive veteran community here in Colorado.
Especially Monument.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And so that kind of started that thing. If you've been in our tasting room, or you've seen the wall that has all the military paraphernalia on it, it's a very small portion of it is mine, actually. Most of that is veterans who come in and leave their mark. They leave patches, bolo badges, airborne wings. It's just littered with coins, belt buckles, POW MIA bracelets are on there, and then the sheer number of military coins that have been dropped off there just to leave their mark as well. I think that is huge in it, but having a story, the story behind how I made my first batch is, it's pretty unique. Having a unique story like that does absolutely help. Stumbling into something that I was doing just as I guess a science project.
Yeah.
Yeah, science project turned into hobby, turned into business.
Right,
That's quite the trajectory.
Yeah.
So all of us have our founder story, right? And we can say it backwards 30 times over and over and over again. And I just love your founder story, but what's one story that you don't get to tell enough about how 300 Days of Shine came to be?
A story that doesn't get told enough?
Yeah.
Oh man, over the years, almost all of them been told. I can't really think of any that are not being told now.
Yeah.
It's interesting when I do events, and we do a lot of festivals and events like that. That's the best marketing you can do for something like this, is getting your flavor into somebody's hands and them trying it for the first time. But having strangers that I've never met before come up and start telling my story to people at the table, that's pretty awesome, because somebody I've never met before will tell my story almost verbatim to everybody standing around the table. And I'll just stand there, I'll just sit back and I'll listen. And I'm like, this is actually pretty cool that people know my story and they're willing to boast about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that's an accomplishment right there. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. That means people are talking and saying the right thing, and they're listening. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Should we introduce the third host?
I think let's dive into the bucket. We've been talking about a lot of the wins, and I'm sure there are some challenges that you've experienced along this way. So
It's been a challenging time.
I'm excited to kind of dig into that side of things. So yeah, feel
So
free.
all you have to do is dive in and pick your poison here out of the
I get to
bucket.
pick?
You get a pick. Yeah, and then read the question, and we'll all kind of jump in and explore it together.
All right. I didn't bring my glasses, so.
You want to borrow mine?
We all have that client. Tell us about your worst client experience and the boundaries you put in place afterward.
Boy.
Worst client. Wow. I guess it's when we first, and it bites me in the rear end every time me and my wife start talking about comments being made. I mean, social media it can be great and it can be terrible for you. When we probably only opened about a year. I was still doing the tending up front, making drinks and things like that, and serving customers, but also I was responsible for production in the back. So a lot of times I would try and split that time. So if it was a slower day, like a Wednesday or a Thursday, I would have operations going in the back, and I'd come up front and I would serve people. And I'd stay up there for the most part, talk to them and everything like that. But every once in a while, I got to run to the back. We had a few bikers roll in to the taste room. They were wandering around, looking at everything. I served them, got them their drinks and everything like that. And then I took a blistering review on Facebook. This big, probably 6'2" giant guy on a big old Harley with his wife and a couple of his friends. Did not like that I didn't spend enough time talking to them, apparently.
Oh my gosh.
He went pretty nuts on me, and then subsequently, like, even 2 years later, somebody would make a comment on there, and he would chime in with how bad his experience was, and I'd never go back to that place again. The owner said
No
a
way.
couple choice words.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no kidding. Literally the only really negative comment I ever took, but every once in a while he would pop back in and hammering me again for not, taking him by the hand and carting him around the distillery and showing him everything we do and touring him and all this kind of stuff. So that was a learning experience that I don't take any customers for granted. Whenever I'm there, and I'm not there during our open hours as much anymore, but when I am there, I try and engage with all the customers, with everybody, at least going by and do a table touch with them while they're having a drink and see how they're doing, introduce myself, get to know them a little bit, that kind of thing. So that's probably the one thing I can think of.
Wow. So nothing about the product.
No, nothing about it. It was just me.
It was
Just me.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And I've never had anybody else come by and tell me I'm such an asshole. Other than when I was in the military, which I was.
Kind of your job.
It's kind of my job. I was unapproachable. I've had soldiers come in years later and see me now, and they're like, "You were such a dick." And I was like, "Well, did I ever say anything that I didn't that I didn't mean, or say anything behind your back?" And they're like, "No, you were always up front, and everything that was on your mind, you made sure everybody knew it." It's like, well, that's what leaders do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But it's a learning experience, and that was early on too, because I had just transitioned out. So I was still, at that point, learning how to not just run a business, but also vets who spend 20 plus years in the military and half of that in combat have a hard time associating with civilians when they get out.
I could see that, yeah.
That was a learning curve, and then having to deal with employees who are not subordinate soldiers. Can't light into them and rip them up and down and take them out back for some one-on-one counseling with push-ups and flutter kicks and suicides until their elbows explode. You can't do that in civilian life. So.
I was volunteering last week with an organization called the Honor Foundation that helps vets, specifically in special forces, make the transition into civilian life and into business. And so we were doing mock interviews, and it was such an interesting experience, like having all these vets tell me like their kind of business experience, but as it related to being in service. And so, hey, tell me about a difficult time where you and your team were working through a situation, and like a war story, right? And like full on, my guy took a hit in Afghanistan, and I had, it's just like that relatability. You really do feel kind of that gap and the shift in civilian life and how challenging that can be. So first of all, kudos to you to like take that feedback and then actually take it to heart instead of getting mad and be like, well, all right, now I make sure I didn't do this thing and whatnot.
I had the messages ready to send.
I'm sure you did.
I was going to fire back with both barrels. And my wife was like, "Stop."
Take a breath.
She's my quality check. I tell you what. There's been a few times that I just want to let loose on people, but she grounds me. And it is difficult when you retire. You spend certain, I mean, you don't even have to spend 23 years like I did in the military. Guys who come out of high school and their first experience in real life is 4 years in the military, and back during the GWAT days, Global War on Terrorism, there's a deployment in there somewhere, most likely. Being able to relate outside of that is extremely difficult. I've counseled guys who've come into my place that I've served with and that are just transitioning out, and you know, they're just looking for advice. And my biggest advice is learn how to talk to people. Learn how to associate with them that is not related. Your military service is great. If you were injured, if you were, you know, a casualty or something like that, or if you're a Purple Heart recipient, that isn't your identity. It doesn't have to be. That shouldn't, you know, that doesn't need to be the first thing that comes out is, well, when I was in Afghanistan, I got blown up. That shouldn't be the starting point of the conversation. Okay, get to know people, talk to them. My hardest part was that part, getting to know people, being interested in who they are, not being the I'm a vet and I'm better than you kind of attitude that a lot of vets get out, and they look down on people because you didn't serve. No, everybody has their own stories, everybody has their own hardships, everybody has things that they're going through, and in a community like this, the best thing is to do is to shut up and listen to what they have to say. And then if you can relate, and if your service comes into that conversation, that's how I kind of navigate that.
It's interesting. You know, like you, Jason, I've never been a vet. I've never gone through the transition, but I've taught a couple transition classes. I've done plenty of volunteering and helping vets make that transition. And it's interesting because, you know, from one side of the table, you know, civilization, you know, the civilian world, not civilization, the civilian world expects vets to conform into society just so seamlessly. And it's not like that. I remember talking with one vet, and it was a female. She looked at me, she was recently out by maybe just a couple weeks, and she looked at me, she says, I don't even know what to wear. And just simply going to the store and shopping for professional clothing to wear to work was such a difficulty for her, and I think that's stuff that as civilians take for granted. As it's and then she goes on, I don't know how to do my hair, I don't know how to do my makeup, much less talk to my leader and not use acronyms and just all of this stuff that was such a difficult part, but even just starting her day and figuring out what to wear. So hard.
Absolutely. And the hair thing isn't just, you know, the females getting out of it.
Oh, I bet for you guys too,
I thought hair was a nuisance for 15 years of my career.
Did
so I shaved my head bald.
Really?
I didn't have hair, so when I got out and I started growing hair, I had no idea what to do with my hair. And there was days I'd get out of bed or get ready for work, and my wife was like, "You're not gonna go looking like that, are you?" I don't know what to do with it. She's like, "Well, you got a comb over, and you don't need a comb over."
You're not bald yet.
No.
That is so funny. Yeah, you know, kind of circling back around to the problem client thing, and it's seeing this gentleman come into your establishment and expect you to drop everything and walk him around and give him, you know, this wonderful experience, which probably would have been great had it happened, and it sounds like you learned from it. But I oftentimes think about some unreasonable expectations that clients put on us too. I know, at least for our firm, that happens quite frequently. But I think it's because we focus on hospitality first. We create a place where community feels comfortable here and wanted and heard and seen. And if you just take that slightest step away from it, because maybe you have to look at something over here, it's just, it's very noticed.
Yeah, and he wasn't a little guy with a small ego too. He was huge ego, big burly dude, bear of a man. But one of the other comments was something about how I don't like bikers, and he must be afraid of people in leathers. Okay, I have 2 Harleys. I have all the leathers.
Uh-huh.
So no.
You're like, I'm more than you.
Because I'm not dressed like that while I'm working.
Right.
So.
He's probably waved to you as you're writing. But yeah, I guess what I was getting at is kudos to you for creating an environment of probably pure hospitality. Like I said, I've been to your place. It's freaking phenomenal, and I've always felt welcome. But he probably expected the amazing experience you do expect, but there was just this inch that wasn't met. But good for you. Good for you.
Let's move on to the next one.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. What's a trend you completely missed or dismissed early on that ended up being huge? What did you teach, or what did that teach you about staying agile? Trend in the liquor community. I try to grasp trends. As much as people are drinking, I try and stay as tuned into what is popular. I think it was our watermelon moonshine. When
After the song?
that was the thing. Danny
Uh-huh.
Wilson came out
Yeah.
with a song, Watermelon Moonshine. My wife said, "Do it." I put it off for a year,
Did you?
and it didn't hit like we thought it would.
Oh no.
And we see other watermelon moonshines, that really took off. So
Yeah.
I think that was one. We still have it on the menu now, but
Do you?
yeah, that was one that I missed on.
I think Brandy and I were talking about our favorite moonshines of yours earlier today, and I think she said your watermelon moonshine was her favorite.
Good.
I think that's the one she said.
Tastes like a watermelon Jolly Rancher. Yeah, I mean you can't mix with it. It's
Yum.
How and so I'm so curious about this to kind of deepen, because I feel like in the last span of the 10 years that you've been in business, the distilling world has really grown in some ways. This kind of craft distilling is a thing. What are those trends that you feel like you've been seeing, and not to say ones that you've missed, but like what trends have you felt like you've hit as well that has really allowed the company to grow?
I think the ones that we've hit is like our barrel finish line. Since we make a specialty spirit, it's not considered a whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a barrel finish line that tastes like a whiskey.
Mm.
I adjust the grains in that in the mash bill, so when we age it in barrels, it comes out tasting more like a whiskey than it would a rum with all that sugar in it. That was, I think we missed on the naming of it.
Mm.
Originally we called it Centennial. We only aged it in glass carboys with oak chips for about 2 months. And when it hit the market, people didn't really know what it was. It didn't say whiskey. It didn't have any wording in it that said it's a whiskey. So we rebranded it to what it is now, which is our barrel finish. Barrel finish gives you the idea that it's a whiskey because it's barrel aged. It looks like a whiskey, but it just legally cannot have the word whiskey on it because we use beet sugar in our mash bill.
Really?
But by all aspects of it, it tastes like a whiskey. Makes some of the best old fashions in Colorado.
Huh.
Self-proclaimed, of course.
Yeah.
There's a couple other distilleries that have caught on to saying the best old fashions, but I started that, like 5 years ago, and haven't had anybody tell me different. So
I don't know if I've ever thought about having an old fashioned with your product.
We sell a ton of those things. That's the most popular cocktail in our tasting room.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about navigating away from moonshine and playing with other spirits?
I've toyed around with it, done some different things, but to stay true to Colorado and really try and push the history and the tradition that was here in Colorado, and bring that history back. If I deviate from that, I'm going away from what our core root is, which is focusing on that Colorado history. Colorado moonshiners didn't make corn liquor. They just didn't. They didn't have a lot of corn here. They used beet sugar. So that being said, and there's nearly 100 distilleries in Colorado right now, and just about every one of them focuses on whiskey, rum, and agave spirits.
It's true.
I let them do their thing. They're good at it, and there's a lot of them that I buy a lot of their product from. I just want to focus on seeing how many different flavors and what we can do with this type of spirit.
Yeah.
We've got 22 flavors right now that do really well. So eventually I'll have some more coming out, which will drive my wife nuts because then she's got to build the marketing behind those.
A lucky lady.
Yeah.
I just in my mind see like this mad scientist in the in the back, just coming up with flavors.
Pulling out grandma's recipe and being like, green bean casserole? Probably not.
Probably not. But I bet, I mean, probably not a green bean casserole. Probably, yeah. Then with the.
What is the weirdest you've gotten with a flavor, like experimenting wise?
The weirdest is actually, I don't know if it's really weird, but I grew up in Northeast Montana, so huckleberries are a huge thing.
Okay.
You can't go into a roadside souvenir shop without finding huckleberry jam, huckleberry syrup, the huckle nuggets.
Yes.
The moose nuggets, that's huckleberries coated in chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
It's huckleberry everything. And huckleberries don't grow, it's not like they're farmed in Montana.
Yeah.
They basically grow wild, and that's how they're harvested. And then they make whatever products they're going to sell, and when they're out, they're out. It took me a long time to find an actual huckleberry flavoring that tasted like huckleberry and not just a blend of blueberry and blackberry. So when I put that together, it didn't have a lot of aroma to it. It tasted like huckleberry, but I didn't have a lot of nose. And when you're drinking spirits, especially something unique, everybody smells it first.
Yeah.
That's the first thing you do. I found a company called Food Room that makes a really good sweet hibiscus note. And it doesn't add to the flavor, but it adds to the aroma. So I added that to it, and it has the most inviting aroma ever. Like as soon as you smell it, you're like, you just want to drink it.
Really?
But then the flavor hits you, and it's all huckleberry.
So completely different.
So it's our huckleberry hibiscus. It's actually one of my favorites in the lineup. But that one's probably the most unique. The weirdest stuff is what my wife does. So she does a monthly infusion for the tasting room every month. So every month has got a different flavor she infuses our sugar moon with to make these different things. And she wanted to come up with so for April Fool's Day, she came up with different flavors that are just out of the norm. And it was up to the bartender, so in the 4-shot sampler, you would get 2 of the off flavors and 2 of the good flavors. And we left it to our customers to decide which ones they like.
Kind of like that Jelly Belly game where they've got the good flavors and the bad flavors. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
The booger one?
Yeah,
yes,
booger,
exactly.
like grass clippings, rotten egg.
Brilliant.
Yeah, she did one that had horseradish in it. And we didn't know how. I buy horseradish paste and sauce for sandwiches and stuff like that. But I've never actually cooked or stripped a horseradish in the house.
The root?
Yeah, so I bought the horseradish for Jen to do this. She was going to infuse it into our moonshine and add a couple other things to it. And I was at work and she called me and she's gagging. I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, it's the horseradish. It's burning my eyes. The whole house is rancid. She had to open up all the windows. It was from one horseradish. I got home and it hit me in the face like a train. I was like, she's like, yeah, it's not bad now. And I was like, this is bad. She's like, it was 10 times worse about 2 hours ago.
Oh my goodness.
But that flavor into our shine, we had people we were getting some really crazy responses from it. We actually had people who liked it and were like, you got to bottle it. I'm like, I'm not
No. Really?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I appreciate a good horseradish sauce, you know, with my prime rib.
Yeah, I think she did like a pickle habanero, which would make your eyes water as soon as you open the jar.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that's a lot of flavor.
Yeah,
it
was a fun. She comes up with a lot of different crazy fun events to try and get people to come into the tasting room, and that was just one of them that was pretty fun and unique.
That was clever.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have come to that one though. I had the courage, but I could see, like young 20s, like okay, let's do this. I'm in. I'm too old for All right.
One
All right,
more.
One more. Let's grab this one right here. Okay. Share a moment when you realized your business was heading in the wrong direction and tough decisions you made, and the tough decision you made to pivot. Well, that's just recently, actually. It's actually not so much my business going in the wrong direction. I mean, we were going in the right direction, but we had a lot of liquor laws in Colorado change, which I never expected. That's one of the things that you don't really think of when you start a business, is how legislation can change so much in your industry. You know, with the elimination of 3.32 beer and full strength beer going into grocery stores. I mean, that happened in 2018.
Yeah.
2018, that really put it put a wrench in our independent liquor stores businesses. We started bouncing back from that, and then Prop 125, which put wine into grocery stores. So now in Colorado, you can get wine in big box stores.
Yeah.
What a lot of folks didn't realize when they were voting for that, that was 60 to 70% of our independent liquor stores business. So in the course of the first year of 125 going into effect, we lost roughly 100 liquor stores, went out of business.
Oh my gosh.
They're actually projected now, 2026, that we could lose up to 400 more in the state of Colorado, because people conveniently, and it was all done out of convenience. And if that's what people wanted, that's what they voted for. But small business is being crushed, as well as the craft industry is being really strained right now because of that.
Wow.
I lost 160 placements in the first year.
Whoa.
In distribution. So we distribute throughout the entire state of Colorado. When that happened, you know, you lose 160 placements. Our distribution went from roughly 200 cases a month to right now we are below 60 a month.
Ouch.
In distribution.
Wow.
It's because people don't have eyes on your product anymore, because they conveniently buy their beer and their wine at the grocery store when they buy their groceries. It's just easier. Instead of
And
going
you
next
can't
door
put
to the
any
grocery
product
store.
there.
No.
Yeah.
Even if they did pass the law where we could put spirits into grocery stores, the large distributors in the country will come in, flood those stores, fill those shelves up, and they wouldn't carry our product anyway. We actually fought in legislation last year to kill a bill that was going to pass that. And we were able to get that killed, because that would have crushed the industry. We would have lost 100% of our distribution versus 75 right now. You know, that coupled with, you know, the labor costs going up. Then you add in inflation over the last 4 years, where the cost of all of our raw materials have almost doubled. That's been the hardest part of this industry, of being in the liquor industry in Colorado, is those changes happen so fast and trying to catch up to it. And then pivoting on, okay, were we going to make up those losses? That's where the Keystone license, we started using our secondary license in Keystone to open up a secondary tasting room. I think it's pivotal is, if you're going to do that, make sure that you have a high foot traffic. If you don't have a lot of foot traffic, it's probably not going to work.
Well, how do you make it work at Monument? You have 0 foot traffic hidden behind a mechanic shop.
I had 5-6 years of building a customer base.
Wow.
Where word of mouth really travels.
Yeah.
That didn't help our independent liquor stores.
No,
But I mean,
not at all,
you know,
yeah.
coupled the loss of those independent liquor stores, we've lost 140 breweries have gone out of business in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Been a lot.
Distilleries, the presence of distilleries in Colorado is down 30% from 4 years ago. With the breweries, they're, you know, you've had 140 close, but they are basically 3% under in new breweries coming to replace those. So they're slowly just disappearing. And that's statewide, and it's been rough for everybody. Everybody in the industry that I talk to is in the same boat. It's just like our sales are nothing. Especially here in Colorado. If you can't get a large distributor to carry your product out of state, start selling out of state as well, You're basically depending on all your revenue being generated from your tasting rooms, and that's about it.
Really?
That's about it.
And there's also a trend. You know what? That stopped recording. Pause.
Okay, so I'm not
I
losing
heard
my
that.
mind?
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
why I did that. We'll come right back. I have.
So that's interesting because we've got a couple clients who are either distillers or craft brewers, and luckily none of our clients have been hit, but it seems like there have been so many craft brewers, especially from what we've noticed. Plus, we're really close with the former owners of 1350.
Loved him.
I
Very
know,
much.
aren't
Yeah.
they fantastic? But it was probably one of the hardest closures we've
Yeah,
seen.
prior to them opening, he was spending days and days and days at my place,
Was he
picking my
really?
brain about opening up, his spot.
Really?
We tried supporting them as much as possible, and then when we got that word, I was like, that was crushing. Golden Moon went out of business. You know, Stephen Gold he's a Marine who opened that up. They were in business for 10 years, went out of business. Lee Spirits, just down the street from us, they went out of business.
Yeah,
It's
they didn't last long.
It's been a cascade, it's been a
Yeah.
waterfall of distilleries going out of business. But breweries too. I mean, breweries that were using our barrels and we collaborated on and different things are just gone. They just couldn't make it happen.
It's devastating. Do you think it's primarily because of these large big box stores opening up their shelves
Yeah.
to liquor? Or?
I think I honestly that's when I started seeing the trajectory we're on right now is when that started. When big box stores got wine. Wine is huge in Colorado. I mean, it's a huge market.
Huh.
A lot of people drink wine.
Really?
And when you take that out of independent liquor stores and put it into grocery stores, first thing they did was distributors were selling large quantities of that wine at discount price. So you buy bulk, you get a better price. You can undercut the guy sitting next to you in the liquor store.
Okay.
So when we first opened, every grocery store you went into, there was a liquor store right next door.
Yeah.
So as far as convenience, it's inconvenient to walk next door. Okay. But what they did is, what we've seen is a lot of these stores are going out of business because you can, not only is it convenient, but I can get a bottle of wine for $2-3 cheaper at Safeway than I can at J&K Liquors or right next door, and people will tell me that all day long when they're sitting to me in the taste room. They'll say, well, yeah, but I can get it cheaper here. And I was like, right now, when that liquor store goes out of business, do you think that price is going to be the same?
Yep.
It's going to go up.
Absolutely. And then
And
you
And you just put a small business owner out of work.
Seems like, you've got the pressure of, the big box stores, and then you've got the cost of labor, and then you've got the cost of actually creating your product and supplies, and then we're in this whole weird stagflation thing with our economic environment, and it's just like, okay, can it fucking stop now?
And that's why we have tried to keep our prices the same across
Yeah.
the board. We had a couple dollar raise in our lower proofs on liquor store shelves. That was about 4 years ago, but we've not raised any of our prices since then.
Yeah.
Trying to maintain that. Not only that, I have to compete with the international brands, like Old Smoky.
Oh,
Old
okay.
Smoky's on the shelf right next to mine, and if mine is more expensive than theirs, more times than not, people are going to buy the less expensive. So I have to keep my prices within range of Old Smoky's, even though I'm local, I'm craft, better known. That don't matter.
Wow.
What matters is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah. People live on a pretty limited income nowadays, and
Yeah.
they're voting with their dollars wisely as they can. So, yeah, wow. Which makes it tough. So, does the majority of your revenue come from your tasting rooms? It does, really. How do you get people into your Monument location? I'm dying to know. It's a tough location to work with.
Well, I mean, when we first opened up, it was difficult because we're behind there, and then our marketing was 2 signs in the driveway. In the parking lot.
I remember trying to find you for the first time. It was hard. Have you been there, Jason?
Yeah.
Have you? Okay.
So we started building a pretty good following in Monument locals. Most of our marketing was word of mouth. honestly, because it's such a small community. It's small town environment in between two large cities. Well, three if you want to count Castle Rock, but so most of our customer base was just word of mouth. Couple things that we did, we brought in that On the Hook fish truck, which has a massive following.
Yeah.
The first time we had that truck at our place, we had a line of people a mile long, going all the way down the street, and that brought a lot of eyes on our product, on our place that we didn't have before. You know, on a Thursday where we would do maybe $500-600 in sales total, on average, that food truck there we would do like $3,000-4,000. Just because, I mean, the parking lot would turn into a tailgate. People would be sitting in their tailgates. They would bring lawn chairs because we have a small tasting room. So people are in, you know, they're sitting in lawn chairs and they bring their own stuff just to sit out there, eat fish, and then they come in and get a drink. Or they would buy bottles and take them home with them. So I mean that was big. Believe it or not, COVID didn't crush us. We transitioned to sanitizer on a few of our runs to make hand sanitizer, and then every bottle we sold, we donated the equivalency to law enforcement, first responders, and we were just selling little small bottles of it.
Wow.
And just putting those two words on social media. Within the next day, we would have a line of 10-15 people wanting hand sanitizer, and then they would buy bottles, and they became regulars.
Really?
When we finally opened again, we were able to do business again and actually have customers come into the tasting room versus sitting outside in what we call drinking pods, where we put up makeshift greenhouses attached to the wall so you could socially distance and sit in one of these with your own little oil heater.
I saw one of those before.
Yeah. So that actually built a bit of a following just from doing that, being able to provide, you know, those services to people. And then, you know, about 2022 is when we started seeing things change quite a bit, you know, with laws and the industry. And then you also have to look at Gen Z, this generation coming up.
I don't drink.
They don't drink.
No.
They don't socialize. They complain that they're, you know, unsocial, or they're social misfits, or whatever you want to call it. But they don't go out and socialize, and that's what these watering holes are: tasting rooms, bars, saloons. That's a social interaction. You get a little bit of this in you. It's a social lubricant. You can start talking to people.
Everybody's your best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start talking to people. Learn how to talk and converse with other people. That's where the saloon was actually. That's what it came from. Was the salons where people went to learn the news of the day. That's what a saloon was, when it wasn't a church on Sunday.
Yeah. Jason, you were about to jump in with a question. Do you
No,
remember what it was?
Nope. No. This has been great. Yeah, I was also watching the time, thinking we're probably ready. I think my question was, where can people go find this and start coming to hang out and drink with you guys?
Yeah, so you can, if you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, we're on 300 Days of Shine, 300 Days of Distilling. I do a lot of videos, so just be ready. We switched to mostly reels, so you're going to see me talking about nonsense and also the science of making moonshine. We do a lot of videos. We're on YouTube, but also our website is the number 3, the word 100days.com. So if you're looking on Instagram and in social media, it's not 300. We're not the Spartans. We're 3 and then the word 100 days. So that's where you can find us. As far as finding our product, we do distribute to just about all the major liquor stores. Some of the smaller ones are struggling, so you don't find it as much. But you know, you can go to, you know, Apple Jacks, Cheers Liquor Mart, all the liquor warehouses, the liquor outlets. They carry all of our product. And then our location is 279 Beacon Light Road in Monument.
And you've got a new location.
And we have a new location up in Keystone.
Yeah.
It's right in the village. Can't miss it. It says 300 Days of Shine right on the wall, right next to Groovy's Mac and Cheese. So yeah, when you're going up to Keystone to do some mountain biking, you're going to do some hiking, stop in, have a sample, have a drink, and buy a couple bottles.
Best way to end the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us
Well,
today.
thanks for having
And
me.
as I promised you guys at the beginning of the podcast, he may not have been classified as a friend at the beginning of the podcast, but you're definitely a friend now. So
Appreciate that. Thank you.
thank you. And I mean, can't get a better friend than this, who brings these type of gifts.
That's right.
But thank you everybody for joining us on Show Me Yours today. Please go and support Mike. His product is truly phenomenal. When you drink his apple pie moonshine, it is like drinking grandma's apple pie. It really is. It takes you back to your childhood, at least for me. Go taste, enjoy, and drink responsibly. I am Rihanna, and this is Jason. Show me yours.